The Nock To It is such an awesome release, and this is going to unlock a whole new level of your archery. Now what I want to do is I want to give you some basic pointers and get you familiar with the handheld release and walk you through some of the easy principles that I go through with all my students to get them shooting awesome groups with the Nock To It. Now first off, when you see the Nock To It, you're going to see that it comes with a lanyard on here. If you're new to a handheld release, this is on here for your safety. Because some people, when they're shooting a handheld release for the first time, and they're trying to figure out moving a thumb versus, letting your thumb go from here to here or putting your thumb on the trigger, if you relax your other fingers while manipulating your thumb, then the bow is trying to shoot an arrow forward and there's weight pulling that away from you. So if you relax your hand, that release is going to go no different than letting go of your string with your fingers. As crazy as that sounds, it's very common when people are first learning a handheld release. So full disclosure, always pretend like your fingers are curled around a pull-up bar and you are always fully holding on to this release. Don't relax any of these fingers, otherwise the bow is going to want to take this away from you, just like it's wanting to send that arrow down range. This lanyard gives you the safety and the comfort of making sure if you accidentally let go of that, it's at least on the lanyard. Now another thing that I want to say is a shot trainer is such a valuable learning tool. This has single-handedly been one of the most important training tools to my professional archery career because for the longest time, I wasn't able to practice with my bow all day. So a lot of times when I was traveling on the road or when I was at my desk or when it was dark out and I wasn't able to shoot or go to the range, I worked with one of these that I had made years ago. And this just allows you to go through the simple basic things of understanding this handheld release. And it's honestly just nice for you to be able to hold this D loop out in front of you and learn how to properly load this release and see how that functions. And it also allows you to look at your hand and realize what you're doing and work on some of the anchoring principles, some of the rocker principles, and some of the angle principles that I'll share with you in that tutorial of getting in some reps, getting some practice, and training tools for your Nock To It. So the shot trainer is such an important thing for you to have to be able to understand this. If you don't have one of these and you're doing it with your bow for your first time, make sure that you're fully hanging on to this thing. And when you do grab the handheld release, and this goes back to shooting a handheld release 101. So the way this release is designed, it's designed so that your index finger will go in the hole and your middle finger will go in the open slot next to it. Now, one of the things that makes the Nock To It so accurate is that you have less fingers on the release. The more fingers you have on the release, the more ability you have to change your rocker position like this, which changes your hook's position on your D loop, or your angle like this. The less you have on the release, the better you are for accuracy, which is why this is designed this way. So when you put your fingers in that release, I want you to curl your fingers around just like this so that your hand is still flat like this. You don't want to go so deep into the release that you're holding it like a pair of brass knuckles, because if you do that, this knuckle, which is then going to try to anchor on your face, it's going to feel like a fist on your face, which in my experience has never felt good. So take your fingers, You're going to bend them like this to where this flat row right there is going to perfectly fit the width of that nock to it, just like that. So your hand will be flat, and you're also going to notice that because the release head comes up between your index finger and that middle finger, that is going to create a V. And that separation is what you're going to focus on when finding your anchor position at full draw. So what I teach people is if they just take their hand and they bend it like this and they have this V, your index finger is going to be right on your jawline, and the middle finger is going to be right in the soft part of your cheek, right above your lower teeth. So you're going to have index finger on the jawline, middle finger is going to be right in that cheek well. So think of it like this. These are two wheels that are fitting on a track. Your jawline is your track. Think of it like a train track, and these are going to pull along that train track. So if your head is in a vertical position, looking to the target, your hand is shaped around this release so that your hand is still flat. You have your V, index finger on the jawline, middle finger is going to be in the cheek well. Now anytime you draw the bow back or let the bow down, you should always get in the habit of not having your thumb near this trigger. I normally put my thumb over here by the tip of my finger on my index finger. So just to give you a little look here, and again, this is something that's so easy to do if you have a shot trainer because the bow isn't trying to take it away from you. So I will have my hand is flat. You can see it's inverted, okay? I've got my thumb over here by my index finger, and I can find my anchor position safely. And then now I can move my thumb into the position that I need to and shape that trigger. So once I start my pull, I'm able to have a smooth surprise shot without accidentally activating this release because I've had my finger here during the pullback or during the letdown. So keep your thumb over here by the tip of your index finger. Once you're actually anchored and looking through your peep, then go ahead and bring that around. So we've talked about the shape of the hand to hold the release. We've talked about the V of the separation between the index finger and the middle finger going right on that jawline. So you're pulling that V along the jawline as you're executing your shot. Now the other thing to keep in mind is your angle of attack, okay? So when you're addressing the target and you're raising that bow to the target, you can have this hand flat or you can have it very vertical. The choice is yours. But what you'll notice is the more vertical you turn this, the more you're going to twist your D loop around and put tension and torque on your bowstring, which you really don't want. So what I tell people is when they raise their bow up to then pull back, try to keep your hand at a 45-degree angle, which really is the shape of your face if you think about it. So if I draw back, I'm going to draw with an angle to where once that bow stops, I can come over to this anchor position without having to change the position of my head. So I'm going to draw back, the bow will stop, and I'll bring that V into position just like that. And again, this is something that you can practice easily with a shot trainer. One thing I tell people so that you know whether or not you have too much inversion or whether you're too flat is think about your fingers. So what's nice about this release is we are only utilizing index and middle finger. My ring finger is kind of hanging here. Sometimes you can hang it on the half notch. You could also drop it off. That choice is yours. But what I tell people is if one shot you all of a sudden feel your pinky and your middle finger pressing on your face, well, that tells you you've now inverted. If all of a sudden you're at full draw and you don't feel your middle finger at all on your face, well, now you've gone too flat. So you really want to have that separation come right to the jawline like I told you, and you want to have index finger pressure on the face, middle finger pressure on the cheek well, but you also want to keep that pressure light. Now from there, once you have that consistent anchor point, I like to tell people that their pressure on their release is going to be important because this relates to rocker position. Rocker position has to do with the way this release is this way, either rocked back with more index finger or with more middle finger, ring finger, or whether it has more index finger pressure and it's rolled that way. Each of those directions causes this D loop to be in a different position on that hook, and that's not something that's going to give you accuracy downrange. What I tell people is whenever you're drawing the Nock To It, or the silverback for that matter, I want 60% of the pressure on your index finger, 40% of the pressure is going to be on your middle finger. And what that's going to do is that is going to put your D loop at the top of this casing so that once this jaw that is actually opening down, when it opens, your D loop is going to immediately be coming out of that release to be super consistent. So you can see with 60% pressure, this D loop is going to be at the top of that casing, and as pressure is applied and that hook drops, it's going to immediately be coming off that flat surface, giving you super accurate arrows downrange. Okay, so let's go through this one time. And again, if you're not familiar with it, utilize your lanyard. So I'm going to mimic drawing back. My hand is flat, comes to a stop. I'm going to put my index finger on the jawline, middle finger is in the cheek well. I don't feel ring, I don't feel pinky. I don't not feel my middle finger. I'm at that perfect angle of my face. Now what I want you to do is I want you to be able to bring your thumb to the back of this trigger, and I want you to learn to shape your thumb without setting it off. This is something that you can do simply holding it, just like this. You can learn to bring your thumb around, and you can learn to shape this without firing. If you go to do it and you're going off, well, then you're putting pressure on the release. You're not shaping the release. Think of it just like if you were shooting a high quality rifle, a two-stage trigger where you're shaping that finger around the trigger, but you're not quite building pressure to activate the shot. You're simply shaping that trigger. So I'll be at full draw. I'll bring my thumb around, I'll shape, and once I shape, now I will leave my thumb in the exact same position, but I'm going to think about pulling the tip of this elbow of my release hand to the wall behind me. So I'll be at anchor, full draw, looking through my peep. I'm going to shape my thumb. Once I've shaped my thumb, I'm going to keep it in the exact same position. I will not move my thumb, but I will build pressure on this release by pulling my elbow a few more pounds behind me. So I'm shaping my finger, good. Now I'm starting my pull, and that shot's going to go off. What's so awesome about the Nock To It is you have the control of your shot because you determine how much preload you're putting around that trigger when you shape it. And simply working on little drills like this, is an easy way to get familiar with it. How much can I shape this trigger? Right there, went off, too much. Okay, can I do it that much? Great. Now if I pull a little bit against that back wall, it goes off perfectly. These are such easy drills that you can do to get familiar with the release. Now we will have another video on training tools and training principles that you can do to make better shots with the Nock to it. But for now, if you've got those basics, you have your safety lanyard, you understand to keep your finger on the inside, away from the trigger. I've got it over here, and I'm going to be able to draw my bow, anchor, look through my peep, shape my trigger, trust my pin floating in the middle of the target and pulling that elbow to the wall behind me to get that perfect shot.